My parents cut me off because I refused to keep bankrolling my sister's lifestyle. She's family, you owe her, they told me. I said, alright then, and walked away from all of them. Now they're the ones scrambling, and I still remember that moment like it happened yesterday. My mom looked me dead in the eyes and said, if you're not going to help your sister, then you don't belong in this family. She said it so matter-of-factly, like she was just letting me know dinner was at 6. My dad didn't even glance up from his phone. He just mumbled, maybe it's for the best. And my sister? She was grinning like she'd just won something. Arms crossed, head tilted just so, like she'd been waiting for this exact moment to play out. That smug little sparkle in her eyes told me everything. I could tell she was enjoying every second of it. I just stood there for a minute, looking at the three of them, hoping, maybe foolishly, that someone would break the silence and admit it was all some twisted joke. That they didn't actually mean it. But no one said a word. The silence just dragged on, heavy and cold. Eventually, I let out a short, dry laugh. Alright then, I said as I grabbed my jacket off the back of the chair. Guess I'll save you the trouble. And I walked out that door without looking back. No one called after me. No one tried to stop me. Hell, they didn't even pretend to care. And honestly? That should have hurt. Maybe it would have, years ago. But by that point, I'd already spent a lifetime being the forgotten kid, the dependable one, the one who never asked for help but was always expected to give everything he had. And my sister? She was like this never-ending pit my parents kept throwing money into. Every time, it was the same excuse, she's family. You owe her. For years, I went along with it. I covered her rent when she blew her money on impulse buys. I sent her cash during one of her many emergencies, which, more often than not, were messes of her own making. I bailed her out more times than I can count, even when it left me struggling to stay afloat myself. And my parents? They never once said thank you. Never told her to get her act together. They just expected me to handle it like it was my job. Until one day, I finally said no. That's when the script flipped. That's when I went from the good son to the selfish one. And just like that, they cut me out of their lives. For a while, I let them. I walked away and built something on my own. Without them dragging me down, I finally felt like I could breathe. For the first time in years, I was free. But now? Now they're the ones reaching out, hoping for a lifeline. And the irony? I'm the only one who can help them now. But the truth is, I'd been waiting for this moment too. The first few months after they kicked me to the curb, life actually got easier. No more late-night calls from my sister, panicking over rent she forgot was due. My bank account, for the first time in forever, wasn't on life support. I didn't have to listen to my parents guilt-tripping me about family loyalty, which, let's be honest, only ever seemed to go one direction. I had peace. And I really thought that was the end of the story. They made their decision. I made mine. Then, out of the blue, my phone rang. It had been almost 2 full years of silence from any of them. But I recognized the number the second it popped up on my screen. It was my mom. I let it ring. She called again. Then a third time. By the fourth call, I figured something must be seriously wrong. My mom never called unless she needed something. And if she was being this persistent? This wasn't just some casual, hey, how've you been, kind of thing. Curiosity got the better of me. I answered. Hello? There was a pause. Then I heard her voice, shaky, unsure. Stephen, it's your mother. I leaned back against the kitchen counter. Yeah, I know, I said. Another pause. How have you been, she asked. I almost laughed. She didn't care. She never had. So why fake it now? I'm fine, I said, keeping my voice flat. What do you want? She hesitated. It's about your sister. Of course it was. I probably should have hung up the second she mentioned Amanda. But there was something in my mom's voice, something I'd never heard before. Desperation. What about her? I asked, even though I already knew it wouldn't be good. She let out this shaky breath, like she'd been holding it in for hours. It's bad, Stephen. Now that got my attention. Amanda had a long history of bad decisions, sure, but bad for her usually meant she blew too much on clothes again, or got canned for rolling into work late 3 days in a row. This felt different. How bad? I asked. Then I heard something I'd never expected in my life, my mother crying. She took everything, she sobbed. I furrowed my brow. What do you mean, everything? She drained us, she choked out. The house, our savings, her voice cracked like something inside her finally snapped. And right then, it hit me. My sister had finally done to them exactly what she'd been doing to me for years. Only this time, they were the ones left empty-handed. I waited for the sobbing to die down before I asked the obvious. So why are you calling me now? There was silence. Then, in the weakest voice I'd ever heard from my mom, she whispered, "We need your help." I nearly dropped the phone laughing. I couldn't help it. After all the crap they'd put me through, after being told I wasn't part of the family because I wouldn't bankroll Amanda's nonsense, now they were begging? Stephen, my mother's voice trembled again. I took a breath, trying not to laugh in her face. Let me get this straight. After all those years of telling me I owed her, of cutting me out for refusing to play along, now you need my help? I could almost hear her squirming through the phone. We didn't realize how bad it was, she mumbled. I leaned against the counter. Really? Because I did. I warned you, Mom. I told you Amanda would bleed you dry. And what did you say to me? I know. No, let me remind you, I cut in. You said, she's family, Stephen. You owe her. Silence. Then she switched tactics. Stephen, please. You're our son. Oh, now I'm your son again? I chuckled, bitter and cold. Funny, 'cause last I heard, I had no place in this family. Stephen. I rubbed my temples. Just tell me how bad it is. It took her a few moments to pull herself together, but once she started talking, the whole ugly truth came pouring out. Amanda had spiraled. Again. Quit her job, racked up thousands in credit card debt, manipulated them into bailing her out over and over. But this time, she went even bigger. She had convinced them to co-sign on multiple loans. Big ones. Claimed she was investing in herself, said it was for classes, for a business she never even started. Then she talked them into a second mortgage on the house. Or, well, she didn't, they took it out for her. She said she'd pay it back, my mom whimpered. I pinched the bridge of my nose. And you believed her? We didn't think she'd. Mom. She's been using people her whole life. You knew this. That's when my dad finally spoke up in the background, sounding angry and defeated. She abandoned us, Stephen. As soon as the money dried up, she disappeared. Won't answer our calls. Won't even come to the door. I didn't feel sorry for him. Not even a little. He'd spent years defending Amanda, brushing off her behavior, and now he was reaping what he sowed. So let me get this straight, I said slowly, Amanda wiped you out, left you drowning in debt, and cut you off the second you were no longer useful? Yes, my mother whispered. I let the silence hang. Funny how that works. My dad cleared his throat, his voice strained. Look, Stephen, we need help. He paused, like the next words were physically painful. We're going to lose the house if we can't come up with the money. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted them to sit with that. To feel what it was like to be the one left hanging. We know we made mistakes, my mom whispered. We should have listened to you. But we're your parents. Please, Stephen. We don't have anyone else. And they were right. They didn't. Because the only person foolish enough to keep cleaning up Amanda's messes, to keep throwing away his own peace and money for the sake of family, had always been me. Only now? I wasn't sure I wanted to be that guy anymore. I let the silence linger, savoring it. For years, I'd been the one begging for their time, their approval, their respect. Now they were the ones begging. And I wasn't in any rush to answer. Finally, I exhaled. So let me see if I've got this straight. You cut me out because I wouldn't keep bailing Amanda out. Now she's gone, and suddenly I'm family again? That's not fair, my mom whispered. I laughed, a short, sharp sound. Oh, now we're worried about fairness? Stephen, please, my dad cut in, his voice raw. No. This is the time, I said, pacing the kitchen. Because when I needed you, you didn't just ignore me, you tossed me aside. You chose Amanda. Over and over. They didn't say a word. I ran a hand through my hair and shook my head. And now what? You expect me to swoop in like the dutiful son, fix everything, just because we share DNA? You're making it sound, my mom started. I cut her off. That's exactly what you did to me. And this time, the silence that followed wasn't just awkward, it was heavy. That was the sound of the truth finally landing. And it felt like justice. For once, they had to actually sit in the wreckage they'd made. My mom sniffled quietly. Dad let out a sharp breath, the kind you give when you're barely keeping your anger in check. He'd spent years pretending like he held all the cards. But now? That grip was gone. The power wasn't his anymore. It was mine. And I wasn't going to waste it. I let out a slow sigh. Okay, I said, keeping my tone flat. Here's how this is going to go. Mom gasped like she thought salvation had just arrived. Oh, thank you, Stephen, No, I cut her off cold. I wasn't here to soothe anyone. I didn't say I was helping. I said I'm going to tell you what happens next. She blinked, stunned. What do you mean? I didn't answer right away. Walked over to the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, twisted the cap off nice and slow, just to make him wait. Then I turned around and looked straight at them. You let Amanda bleed you dry. I took a drink before continuing. You gave her everything. You ignored every warning sign. Every red flag. And now look at you, no savings, no house, no daughter to bail you out. Another sip. Calm. Controlled. You've only got me left. Silence fell over the room again. Then I drove it home. And I want you to really sit with that. Dad, ever the stubborn one, finally cracked. So what now? You're just gonna throw us out in the cold? I tilted my head and stared him down. Ring any bells? Mom started crying again, whispering something about not knowing what else to do. I could have walked out right then. Could have let them rot in the ruins. Let them feel every bit of the pain they once made me swallow. But I wasn't done. Not yet. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. So I softened just a little. Just enough to spark something in them. I'll think about it. I heard Mom's breath hitch like she'd just come up for air. Dad stayed quiet, but I knew him well enough to imagine him clenching the phone so tight his knuckles went white. Hope. That's what I dangled in front of him. And then? I backed away. No calls. No texts. Just silence. And sure enough, the messages started flooding in. At first, they tried to be sweet. Mom sent long, rambling paragraphs about love and forgiveness and how we were still a family. She wrote like she thought words could patch over years of damage. Dad, always too proud to grovel, kept it short. Just a single, let's talk. Then came the guilt. Stephen, we raised you. Don't we mean anything to you? You'll regret this one day, son. We won't be around forever. Right on schedule. When guilt didn't move me, they shifted to begging. Please, Stephen. We'll do whatever it takes. Just help us keep the house. I know we screwed up, but we've run out of options. We need you. There it was. That word. Need. They finally said it out loud. Admitted the truth. I wasn't a son to them. Not really. I was a safety net. A human ATM. A resource they could mine every time Amanda left their accounts gasping for air. But now? The tables had turned. Now, they were the ones gasping. Time to make my move. I called Mom first. She picked up so fast I wouldn't be surprised if she'd been staring at the phone all morning. Stephen? Her voice was full of hope, shaky and breathless. I didn't rush. Let the silence stretch just long enough to rattle her. Then I sighed. I've been thinking. She practically choked. Oh, thank you, Stephen, Not so fast, I said, steady as ever. I wasn't here for gratitude. I need details. Details, she echoed, caught off guard. Yeah. I want numbers. Loans. Mortgage. Every single debt. I want to know exactly how deep the hole is. There was a pause. Then she cleared her throat like she wasn't ready for how serious I sounded. The mortgage is 3 months behind, she started. And the second loan, the one Amanda took out. The one I co-signed, I interrupted. Yes, she admitted softly. That one's 75 grand. I let out a low whistle. That was worse than I thought. And that's not including the credit cards, she added, almost like she was hoping I didn't hear that last part. I breathed out slowly. So basically, you're screwed. Yes, she whispered, barely audible. Good, I said, almost under my breath. I let out another sigh, like I was really considering it. Okay, I said finally. Here's what we're going to do. She didn't say a word, but I could feel the tension through the phone. I'll come over tomorrow. We'll sit down, go through everything, and figure out a plan. Oh, Stephen, she exhaled, voice full of relief. I knew you wouldn't abandon us. Don't get ahead of yourself, I cut her off. This isn't a yes. It's a conversation. Of course, she agreed quickly. But I could hear it in her tone, she thought she'd won. She had no idea what was coming. The next day, I pulled up to their house. The same house they once kicked me out of like I was nothing. It didn't look the same anymore. The lawn was wild. Paint was flaking off the siding. Whatever pride they used to have in this place? Gone. When Mom opened the door, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Stephen, she breathed, like I was some kind of miracle. I stepped inside. Dad sat at the dining table with his arms crossed, trying to look composed. But I caught the tension in his jaw. Saw the way his fingers twitched ever so slightly. He hated this. Hated needing me. Good. I sat across from them and placed my phone on the table. Let's go over the numbers. Mom rushed off and came back with a stack of papers. It's all here, she said, flipping through them. The mortgage, the credit cards. I held up a hand. Before we dive into this, I said slowly, I just have one question. They both looked at me, waiting. I leaned back in my chair, tilted my head a little, and gave them a long, measured look. Would you have done this for me? I asked. Silence. My father wouldn't even look at me. My mother's face crumpled. I nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Now, it was time to end this. The silence stretched out, thick and suffocating. My mother swallowed hard, her voice shaking. Stephen, that's not fair. I held up my hand. No. Answer the question. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. My father, ever the coward, kept his eyes fixed elsewhere. I exhaled, shaking my head. You wouldn't have. You didn't when I needed you. Stephen, please. My mother's whisper barely reached me. I tapped my fingers on the table, calm but firm. You're asking me to fix a problem you created. To save a house you gambled with for Amanda. The weight of my words hit like a hammer. I paused, letting it all sink in before delivering the final blow. I'm not going to. My mother gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. My father's head snapped up. You what? I stood, not looking back. You heard me. She reached for my arm, desperation in her eyes. Stephen, please. I jerked away, cold. You chose Amanda over me. Now you can live with that choice. And with that, I walked out, leaving them exactly where they left me years ago, alone. I expected the yelling to start the second I hit the door. Instead? Silence. I felt my mother's stunned gaze like a laser on my back. My father's pride was too wounded for him to speak. Good. I grabbed the door handle. But just as I was about to step into the world outside, my mother's voice cracked. Stephen, we'll lose everything. I didn't turn my head, but I could see her, just enough from the corner of my eye. Tears filled her eyes. My father, stiff as a board, clenched his jaw, his fists white-knuckling the armrest. For years, they'd dismissed me. Used me. Cast me aside when I wasn't convenient anymore. And now they were begging. I let out a slow breath, pretending to think it over. Maybe you should call Amanda, I said flatly. My mother winced, like I'd slapped her across the face. She's gone, my father muttered, barely a whisper. She won't even answer the phone. I turned fully now, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Ah, I see. So she only cared about you when you had money. I tilted my head, a mockingly sweet smile curling my lips. Sound familiar? My father's fists tightened. My mother wiped away her tears, shaking her head, trying to defend herself. We didn't know, she began. I cut her off. Yes, you did. You just didn't care until it affected you. The words hung heavy in the air. They had nothing left to say. I glanced around the house, once a symbol of their security, now just another mess of broken dreams. You let her ruin you, I continued, my voice laced with bitterness. The same way she tried to ruin me. I turned back toward the door, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction settle over me. But I got out. I opened the door, and the cold air from the outside swept in, carrying the weight of my final decision with it. And so will you, I said, barely above a whisper. Figure it out. And this time? No one's stopping me. And with that, I walked out of the house and never looked back. At least, that's what I told myself. But the second I slid into my car and gripped the steering wheel, I just sat there, staring out at the street. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt done. For the first time in my life, I had all the power. They'd spent years holding family over my head, using it like a leash to demand my loyalty while giving me none in return. And now they had nothing left. I was free. But even so, the weight of it sat heavy on my chest. They were my parents, after all. No matter how cruel, how selfish, how utterly blind they had been, some small, buried part of me had still wanted them to change. To realize their mistakes. To apologize. But they wouldn't. They never would. Because people like them? They don't change. They don't have grand epiphanies or suddenly see the damage they've caused. They only feel sorry when it affects them. And that's exactly what was happening now. My phone buzzed. I didn't need to check to know who it was. Mom, Stephen. We need to talk. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Talk? Now she wanted to talk? After years of ignoring every plea, every boundary, every warning I'd given them? I watched the 3 little dots appear, then vanish, as if she couldn't find the words. Then another message popped up. Mom, I know we made mistakes. But we're still your family. We don't deserve this. Ah, there it was. I shook my head, tossing the phone into the passenger seat. They still didn't get it. They weren't sorry for what they had done. They were sorry they lost their safety net. And I wasn't going to be their safety net ever again. I put the car in drive and pulled away. For years, they'd told me I owed them. That family meant everything. But this time? I was making sure they understood exactly how it felt to be abandoned. Days passed. Then weeks. I never responded. At first, there were more pleas, guilt trips, and even veiled threats. But when they realized I wasn't going to save them, the messages stopped. I heard through a distant relative that they lost the house. That my father's pride had shattered when they had to move into a tiny apartment. That my mother still cried about how cruel I had been. And Amanda? She was gone. No calls, no letters. Nothing. The golden child had disappeared the moment their money ran out. Funny how that works, I thought. I thought I'd feel guilty. That some part of me would ache to reach out. But I didn't. For the first time in my life, I felt free.